Are you a landlord with problem tenants? How can you legally evict them? Hi, I'm Simon Dippenaar and I'm an attorney. As a landlord, you have a responsibility to your tenants. Your property may be an income-earning asset to you, but never lose sight of the fact that to your tenants, it's their home. Evicting a tenant is not an action you should enter into lightly. Apart from kicking someone out of their home, it could cost you a lot, both in legal costs and in lost income, if it takes a while to find another tenant. Unfortunately, sometimes the relationship with your tenant becomes strained to breaking point. If that happens, what are the legal reasons for eviction? The rental agreement or lease lists the terms and conditions of the tenancy. It provides protection to both landlord and tenant if either party fails to fulfill their contractual obligations. Any breach of the lease agreement by the tenant is a legal reason to cancel the lease. I'll go through the different types of breaches just now, but at this point it is very important to understand the difference between cancelling the lease and evicting a tenant. Now, eviction is a legal process that is carried out via court order and the intervention of the sheriff. You as the landlord may not physically evict your tenants. You must follow the correct procedure. So what constitutes a breach? The most common breach is non-payment of rent. It's up to you how much leniency you want to show. If a tenant is a day or two late with the rent 1 month and they are otherwise a good tenant, give them the benefit of the doubt. Call and let them know you haven't received the rent. This usually sorts the matter. If the rent is still not paid, or if this happens regularly and the rent is now in arrears, your tenant is in breach of the lease agreement. Now, illegal activities. If you discover that your tenant is engaging in criminal behavior, you are within your rights to start the eviction process. This might involve selling stolen goods or dealing drugs. But don't take the law into your own hands. If you have reason to suspect a crime is being committed, report it to the police and let them handle it. Only once you are certain your tenant is carrying out illegal activities may you begin the eviction process. End of the lease agreement. Most lease agreements run for 1 year. At the end of the lease period, there is usually an option to renew, but you don't have to extend the lease. You may want to sell the property or move back in. If your tenant continues to occupy the property after the lease has expired and you've given notice according to the lease agreement, the tenant is now an illegal occupier and is required to vacate the property. If they don't leave of their own accord, you may have to go to court and start the eviction process. Now, violation of the lease terms and conditions. If your tenant is in violation of the terms of the lease, this constitutes a breach, just as non-payment or rent does. Violations include pets on the property when the lease does not allow pets, excessive noise, unauthorized or excessive numbers of occupants, subletting without permission, or the use of the property for purposes other than indicated in the lease, for example, running a retail business from a residential property. Now, health and safety issues. It's unusual, but occasionally tenants violate health and safety rules, putting themselves and neighbors at risk. Examples include noxious odors coming from the property, burning refuse that contains toxic substances, or failing to keep dangerous equipment in a safe place, arguably speaking. Property damage. Most leases have a clause about the responsibilities of landlord and tenant. Landlords are usually responsible for maintaining the fabric of the building, while it is the tenant's duty to keep the property generally clean and well maintained, and to inform the landlord of any damage. If the roof is leaking and water is causing damage to walls and the tenant does not notify the landlord, this is neglect. If the tenant breaks a fixture, such as a toilet or basin, either accidentally or willfully, this is damage. The damage must be significant for there to be grounds for eviction, and there must be evidence, such as photos. Before you undertake a formal eviction process, you must send notice to the tenant, informing them of the breach of the lease agreement, with specific reference to the clause they have violated. Give your tenant a reasonable chance to put things right. Inform them that only if no action is taken in that time will you cancel the lease. I can draft the letter and send it on your behalf. Now, many tenants will take a lawyer's letter more seriously than one from the landlord alone. The eviction process begins when the tenant fails to rectify the breach, not when the breach itself occurs. If you want to know more about the eviction process, whether you are a landlord or a tenant, please give me a call on the number in the signature below.